Hello folks, this is Ross Fleming of Fleming Recordings Nelson speaking, and I'm speaking from the home of Mr. and Mrs. Ed Graham in Slocan City. And Mrs. Graham at the present time is on duty at the post office until 8 o'clock, which is in about 20 minutes from now. And we will carry on with Mr. Graham. I've known Mr. Graham for some time. We were associated together in municipal work when I was on the Nelson City Council, and he, as always, has been in the guiding post in Slocan City. Now, Mr. Graham, what is your full name?
William Edwin Graham.
William Edwin Graham. And where were you born?
Broadview, Saskatchewan.
Broadview. Oh, you're a real Westerner. I was born in Regina, so we're both really Westerners. And what year would that be?
2nd of May, 1893.
1893. And when did you come to the Kootenays?
Came to Revelstoke in 1898. And we stayed there for 2 years, and then moved to Rossland. And it came to Slocan City in 1901, around May the 24th.
1901. That's 60 years ago.
60 years ago.
Well, that's quite a time. And what did you come alone, or did you come with your parents, or what?
No, came with the parents.
Oh, I see.
In the first place, my stepfather worked was on the wagon road up to the Republic Mine, which is due north of Slocan.
Oh yes. And he was a miner, was he?
He was a miner.
I see. Hard rock miner?
Hard rock miner.
I see. And well, those are the days of real sport, when a man had to be in pretty good physical condition.
Absolutely.
To carry out his duties. I had an interesting session with Mr. McMillan, Rod McMillan, last night, and he was telling me all about his experiences in the rock drilling around the Kootenay in the contest and so on, and it was very, very interesting. Did your father take part in any of these drilling contests?
No. No.
I see.
He was a slight man that only weighed about approximately 155, and he did not take any active part in it.
Well, I've seen some pretty slight men do some wonderful work. It's just all in the know-how of how to do it. And as Rod McMillan was saying, a good deal of it was in turning of the steel.
Yes.
When they were drilling. Well, did he follow the mining game all his life?
No. After we were here till 1902, I would say, he moved to Nelson and operated the Grove Hotel.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, right next door to me.
Yeah, right next door to you. That's when I used to go to your store there and buy candy and everything else. I was only a little fella.
I didn't know that yet before, no.
Sure.
And well, by the way, you took your name from your mother's first husband?
Yes.
Yes, I see.
Yes.
And her second husband, what is his name?
Crow.
Crow. Oh, well, yes, I
John
knew,
W. Crow.
I knew the Crows in Nelson, running the Grove Hotel.
Yes.
And well, that goes back not far off the 1901.
No.
And
there was very little in Fairview at that time except the brickyard and
right behind the grove
and Chinese gardens.
Yes,
that was about all that was there.
That's right. And the old Great Northern Depot was right down below the Grove Hotel there.
Yeah, Judith had a home there. I used to be great friends with them.
Yes. Well,
with them all the time.
Yeah, so did I. They had 2 or 3 homes. Within a block of. They had 2 homes there within a block of each other. And well, now, how long were you in Nelson?
At that time, we stayed about, I would say, about 2 years. Then we came back to Slocan.
Oh, I see.
And he operated the Arlington Hotel down here at Slocan.
Oh, yes.
After we came back here.
Mm-hmm.
And he operated that for, possibly 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was in 1912 that I went back to Nelson. I worked for 3 years in the post office in Nelson under Mr. Gibson.
Oh, is that so? Wow. Well, he offered me a job there too, but I was working at the Hume at the time, and he used to be a great friend of Hume's, and I was over there quite a bit. And he offered me a job there, but I said, well, now, how about band work? Would I be able to get off to go to attend to band practices and band concerts and so on? No. Well, I says, I'm afraid I can't take the job. I couldn't give up my music for that. Well, now you left Nelson in about 3 years, 2 or 3 years. You came back to Slocan.
Came back to Slocan. I was in the.
How old were you then, really? Did I get your birth year?
Yes, 93.
93. Oh yes.
That'd be 7. I'd be about 20.
Oh yes.
Something around that.
Oh yes. And what did you do when you come back to?
I went right into the post office here.
You went right into the post office,
and I was in that until I retired.
Well, you can't get very far away from it, can you?
No.
Your wife is the postmistress, is she?
No, my son.
Your son? Oh yes, I see. Your son is the postmaster.
Yeah. But I go over every morning and help them sort the mail. And so on, you know.
Just to keep your hand in, eh?
Just to be doing something.
Yes.
And if they want to get a few days off or anything, why, I look after it.
And what is your son's name?
Edwin Vernon.
Edwin Vernon. And now and he's the postmaster at the present time. I hope that he'll be able to come over a little later, and we'll get a few words from him. Had you any other family in the family?
I have a daughter in Rossland.
Oh yes. What is her
name? Her name is Hood.
Hood.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Desmond Hood. He's an insurance agent there.
Oh yes.
And they have 2 children, and then I have another daughter in Spokane.
Oh yes.
They run a motel.
And you're speaking about them possibly coming in tonight.
Yeah, June might be in.
Is that so? Well, that'd be pretty nice.
It would be if she'd come in.
Welcome to our city, Mrs. Graham.
Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Graham has just come in, so our family is a little more complete. Well, now, you were in the post office for a considerable time. How long did you serve in the post office?
1916 to 59.
I see.
43 years.
43 years. Well, that's quite a long term of service. And you besides the post office, you've had the telephone agency too.
Just a matter of this last 3 years.
Oh yes.
We had a little local phone system here that Walter Clough had put in.
Oh, yes.
And it was just, really just a minor thing, but it worked good, and it was just for locally around town.
Yes, that's
There was no connection to long distance.
Oh, yes.
And I really had the only phone that there was in the store that gave long distance.
I see.
At the present time, there is 23 phones in operation here,
Oh, yes.
and going all the time.
I have a minor, Nelson Minor issue, and it gives a list of telephone subscribers along the Kootenai Lake, and there are only about 25 subscribers at that time. So of course in the early days it didn't extend very far.
No.
There was such a floating population that we didn't have the steady residents.
Well, you know, the way it's working out now, people don't write a letter, they just phone.
Yes.
It seems to be. They have no consideration. We used to be, if we wanted to spend 25 cents, we thought about it twice. Well, now they don't think anything of it.
No. Well, of course it is. Of course, that's what the telephone company keeps telling us, that there's nothing to take the place of the personal voice.
No.
And of course, it is nice to hear the voices of those related to your friends. The girls call us from Montreal once in a while, and the boys from Edmonton, and so on. And it is nice to hear them. Well, now. In those days, when you came back to Slocan City, I suppose it was quite a bustling mining center about that time.
No, it was quite quiet. That OBU strike came on. There was quite a few men working at the Van Roy at Silverton, and also at the Standard.
Oh, yes.
And that strike had came on from Winnipeg.
What do you mean by the OBE?
One big union.
Oh, one big union. Oh, yes.
And really all they wanted was, well, I think instead of being 10 men into a room, why, they wanted individual rooms for themselves, and not to have to pack blankets and so on. Well, the camp never recovered from that.
No, I see. Well, of course, there's no doubt the conditions could have been improved in those days, because it was quite often a great big room, and the men slept and ate and washed their clothes and dried their clothes right in the one room, and it wasn't so healthy.
No.
And of course there was room for improvement. Well, now, is there anything interesting in the life of the community at that time that is different than it is now?
Well, it seemed that we really had a more better time jointly than we do at the present
more
time.
of a community spirit.
More of a community spirit.
I see. And they took part in their games much more now. They're inclined to be spectators now, but then everybody pretty well joined in and into games, and it was the only amusement they had pretty well.
Yes.
I
used to be quite a runner, a 100-yard dash and a 220,
is that so?
And even up to the mile, and the running broad jump. I had everything beat around the whole district here for years.
You and Mr. McMillan were sort of running parallel.
I followed him.
Is that so?
I followed him.
Is that so?
When Mr. McMillan was running and jumping, there was a fellow by the name of Walter Renwick Knox in here, and he worked in the shingle mill over here. And he had taken upon himself to train Mr. McMillan and Mr. William Hicks and anybody that really wanted it. He was an outstanding athlete.
Yes, I see.
Any 5 events, why he could well hold his own with them.
Yes, I see.
They used to come here from all over the country, and then...
Was he, how old would he be? Would he be more or less an elderly man?
No, he wasn't. I'd say when he was here, he would be possibly, 30, 32 or something around that.
Yes, I see. Oh, well, he was in good shape.
The best runners in Canada run up and down that main street.
Is that a fact?
We had a match race there between this Walter Renwick Knox and a fellow by the name of Smith. And for some unknown reason, Smith beat him out.
Oh, is that so?
So everybody pretty much lost their shirt.
That's so. Well.
They all bet on Knox.
Is that so? Well, those were the days of that betting was very popular and very serious business.
Yes.
And there were quite a number of saloons too, quite a bit of jollification during those times, weren't they?
Yeah, there were 16 hotels here at that time.
Is that so?
And you could go in the morning and get an eye opener. It didn't cost you anything.
Is that so? They'd start you off, eh?
They'd start you off.
I see.
But you never saw the drunkenness.
No, I see.
No, nobody came to the dances under the influence. They wouldn't be allowed to dance.
No. Yes, well, of course.
And we used to go down. We didn't have cars. I had one of the first cars here. That was in 1918, I believe. And prior to that, we used to go down to the dances down at Winlaw and Appledale and so on the hand car.
Oh, yes.
And we used to have a good time.
Yes.
No trouble at all during the whole crowd.
Would you have excursions on the boats?
Oh, yes.
And be dancing there too?
Yeah, they'd be dancing on the boat too. Poker game in progress.
Oh, yes.
They had a bar on there at that time too.
There would be always a poker game at the front of the boat, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
And the dances, of course, there would be excursions to different points. Would each town have its own date for these excursions?
Oh, yeah. Well, during the winter time, there was a lot of hockey games. There was quite a hockey town here. We won the cup here, the first year that it was put up. And after that, why, I've still got the cup in town here. We won it here about 10 years ago. Since that time, hockey is pretty well died.
Yes. Yes, well, it seems to me
we used to all go on those excursions from one end of the lake to the other.
Yes.
New Denver and Silverton and Sandon.
What day of the year, which holiday would Slocan usually celebrate?
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Labor Day, that was our day. New Denver was the 24th of May, and Silverton was 1st of July.
Well, yes, I think that's the way they usually divide it out in Nelson. Usually it was the 1st of July for Nelson and 24th of May for Kaslo. And Weimar, of course, they had the 24th of May too. And each community would select their day, and they would get excursionists from all over the district. Were you ever on the any hose wheel teams or anything like that?
No.
No.
No, I was a little too young.
A little bit too young for that. Well, of course, times do change. As Ray said before, the men don't participate in hard rock drilling contests the way they used to, because they use machines now, so they're not conditioned to that. And the same way with hose reels. Of course, they don't. Everything is done by truck now, and they don't have these hose reels and the hydrants the way they used to have.
Of course, it was in 1914 that our waterworks was put in here, and prior to that date, we never had a fire department or anything else. It was just a bucket brigade.
Yes.
Everybody got out, and they'd come tearing into the store. There's a fire, and they'd grab all the buckets they could get a hold of, and away they'd go, and half of them were lost.
Is that so? And they'd station themselves at the lake or at some spring or something like that, and just pass the buckets along from one man to another, and until they reached the fire.
That was the way.
And how would they get the buckets back?
Well, somebody would always bring them back.
Just a second now. We'll answer the phone. Now, we had a little interruption on account of having to attend to the telephone service, and Mrs. Graham has gone back to the exchange to attend to the business. Now, Mr. Graham, in the early days, along with these other sports, did you have any regattas here on such a nice lakefront as you have here?
Just a very small regatta. There would be a matter of maybe 4 or 5 boats from New Denver and possibly 3 from here, and it'd be just a 3-mile race.
These would be motorboats or would be rowing boats?
No, motorboats.
Motorboats.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And they were all inboards. There was no such thing in those days
That's right.
as the Evinrude.
And of course, to a certain extent, some of those races were not quite fair, because some were much more powerful boats than others, and of course they would have a better chance of winning.
Of course, I was usually on a committee too, one of the committee, and we tried to figure it out. I don't remember just how we ever did figure it out, but we tried to handicap the ones, and
yes, that's one way
bring it in fairly close.
Yes, one of the good types of a race that they used to have was the bang and go back race, and where of course is more or less a test of the stamina of the boat and its regularity of function, whereas they would start out from the starting point and go until the signal of the gun, and they'd turn around and come back. And of course the ones that traveled faster would be farther away from the starting point, and they would usually end up pretty well even, although of course there was always the chance of something happening to the engine or some other mechanical trouble.
We never had anything like that.
No, and you didn't have any racing skulls?
No.
Shells?
No.
I see. Now, Ed, I was just wondering, in regard to these boats, I don't suppose you had any competition between 2 rival transportation companies up here, did you? Same as we had in Nelson between the Great Northern and the CPR?
No.
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 So you never had the opportunity of enjoying some of these matched races that they used to have between the big boats?
No.
But nevertheless, it was quite a sight to see these boats come into the and quite interesting to see the traffic that they brought in the early days. And now, is there any other feature about the voting that you might think about?
Well, I might just mention that 3 years ago on Labor Day, the boating club from Nelson brought up a bunch of Evinrudes, and they put on quite a display and give us skiing and so on, water skiing, and it was much appreciated by all the citizens and the visitors here on that day. And one big difficulty we found was in regard to these boats being having to be put into the lake. There was no ramp or anything, and at this present time we are in negotiating to put a ramp in.
Oh, yes.
So that won't occur any.
Well, that would be a good thing, because trailers are such a common thing now, and people from the other side and from quite long distances are coming in and bringing their boats with them, and the conditions have changed a lot in that regard, that your boating public comes from a much wider territory now than it used to. And haven't I heard the word Lucerne of America connected with the Slocan Lake?
That's opposite New Denver.
Opposite New Denver.
Opposite New Denver.
I see. That's
the high school there is called Lucerne.
Is that so? Well, but I was particularly referring to the fact that you wanted to make it a holiday center for. You would like to see the Slocan Lake made a holiday center for.
That's the way I look at it, and the way I see it. And I've been down at Coeur d'Alene there at the races there, and I think we have just as beautiful a lake here, with the exception of the storms arise very, very quickly on this lake, and you might be unfortunate enough to run into a stormy day.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason in the world that it can't be made really a playground. It's good fishing here, really good fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an awful lot of tourists come up here in the summertime, especially on Sundays here. You can't get a table down there to have your lunch.
Well, mm-hmm. Well, that's fine, and well, now I think it's about time that we. Oh yes, there's another point I want to bring in too. I believe that you've had quite a long service in municipal work. Can you tell me something about that? Because I've known about that for some time, because I was on the city council myself in Nelson, and we have attended the same conventions and so on. And but you have had a much longer experience than I have ever had, although I was there 12 years, which is a fairly lengthy time.
I was fortunate enough to, I might say, to be city clerk for a period of 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, why, I've taken the other end of it, the leadership end. I've been chairman of the school board and chairman of the village commission here, and always try to see if we can do something that will benefit the community at large. And I was instrumental, I might say, in regard to bring in the Japanese here.
Mm-hmm.
At one time we had 5,300 of them, and we were all quite concerned in regard to just how they would act, and I found that they were really good citizens, good scholars, and really lived up to the laws. The only trouble we had with them in any way, shape, or form was in regard to fishing.
Oh, yes.
I was justice of the peace here for years, and still am. And I used to fine them $10 and confiscate their fishing tackle, and 10 minutes after they were out fishing again.
Oh, I see.
So
they didn't abide by the regulations.
Didn't abide by it, and you couldn't do nothing. And but the RCMP were very, very cooperative, and there was only 3 men here looking after those 5,300. We never had no trouble at any time.
Well, that is fine. Well, I think as far as municipal work was concerned in the administration part of it, that Slocan City was very lucky to have a man to take over the chairmanship of the commission and so on like that, that had had the experience of as a city clerk for so many years. I think that is a wonderful training.
Certainly was.
And you should know the ins and outs, what makes things tick. Well, now I think that some of these things must be a hobby with you, or else you wouldn't have carried them on so long. Now, see, now we've had the post office, and we've had the commission. Have you had any other hobbies?
Oh, I used to garden a lot.
I see.
I don't know, just got too old or something for that, and or too lazy, I might say.
Well, I don't think there was very much laziness about it, because I think you've lived a pretty active life. And
I've really been active, all right. Years ago, when I had the first auto here, why one of my duties wasn't a duty, but it fell upon me that to convey anybody that was sick to the hospital, and they always went New Denver at that time.
Oh, yes.
It was Dr. Francis. He was the doctor there at that time.
I remember the name.
And he really looked after the valley down here and cleaned down to Arlington, and he was very right on the job. I might say that he was really very, very active. And he was very active there. Then I played golf for years, and that's the only thing that worries me now is that I can't do it.
Well, I'm afraid we have to slow up on some things. There's a lot of things I'd like to do too, but I'm not able to do it. Well, that's very interesting.
I used to go to trail and go to Nelson and take in all the golf tournaments. And used to go to New Denver every Sunday.
Well, now I think it's about time that we brought Mrs. Graham into it. I think we finally got her sort of settled down here. You stay where you are. And I think we've sort of got her, I don't think we have to tie her up now. So we'll get her up here to contribute some part to it. And now we have Mrs. Graham here, and we would like to find out a few fundamentals about her. Mrs. Graham, where were you born and what year?
I was born in Bellingham, Washington. 1894.
1894. Well, now, we had a flood that year where you didn't come in with a flood or anything like that.
Well, hardly.
No. You didn't leave Bellingham right at that moment.
No, no.
And what was your maiden name?
Ray.
Ray.
Elizabeth Johnstone Ray.
I see. And when did you come to Slocan City or to BC?
Tell them why you come
Oh,
back.
well, the reason we came to Slocan City is my father was bothered with asthma
Oh, yes.
and through dampness, so he came here to do some prospecting.
Oh, yes.
And the climate suited him so well that he moved family and we've been here ever since.
Oh, yes. And did his asthma improve
Yeah,
as he...
never had any sign of asthma while he was here.
It's queer, isn't it? It happens that way quite often, and other people will get it.
Yeah. And if he went back to the coast for any length of time, he was bothered with his asthma.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good boost for our
He
climate.
lived till he was 84 years old.
84.
Yes.
Well, well. And well, that's quite a record for a man who had been troubled with asthma. What size family did you have? That is, of the Ray family. How many were there in the Ray family?
There was 4 of us.
Oh, I see. And then any of the others come to this part of the country?
Oh, we all came together.
All came
Same
together.
time.
And you settled in Slocan
Yeah.
City?
I was about 3 years old.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh. And you got your schooling and everything right
yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Well, now, we also have my wife, Minnie Fleming, here on this trip, and she and your sister, Annie, were quite chummy in Kaslo days when Annie went up there to, as I understand it, to take high school. Is that so, Min?
It certainly is. I can remember when Annie first came to Kaslo. She came to school with Vera Riddell. She was staying with them. And our high school principal, it was a one-room school, we were taught by Mr. George Hindle, who was a prince among men. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do.
You had him for a teacher in your early days too.
Yeah.
And Mr. Graham, he taught you too, didn't he?
Did.
And he taught you in the elementary school?
He had a big wide strap about 4 inches wide.
Say, I
and
don't
made
believe
a
he
lot of
ever
noise.
used it. Did he?
No.
It was just there for show.
Yeah.
It was a museum piece.
I didn't start to school again. I believe I told you that before. I started when my first teacher was Miss Moss. But I don't know what grade I was when I got into Mr. Hindle's room.
Well, that's quite interesting to mention any of your early teachers.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think Mr. Hindle had about the hardest job in British Columbia. At that time, there was only the one teacher in the high school. They had every grade, and not only that, some of them chose to take British Columbia matriculation, some wanted McGill matriculation, some Toronto University matriculation, and if whatever they wanted, he agreed. And we used to start school at 8 o'clock in the morning and continue after school hours to get everybody worked in. We were lucky if we got about 10 minutes instruction per class a day. We just learned to work by ourselves. We would never ask for help unless we were stuck.
What year would this be that you are speaking of?
My.
Years?
Don't ask me that, that's too long ago.
Oh.
But it was, around 1910. You know, that would be one of the years, 10, 11, 12.
Well,
Now, Mr. Hindle was made of different stuff from some of his successors. In those days, grade 13 was not the last grade in high school. They offered part of second-year arts. It was called senior academic. And I wanted to take that. So I sent for my books and appeared at school. I was a month late because it took me some time to get those books. Started school first day of October, and they had a teacher there who met the school board that night, and he says, "I'm not going to take that class." I was the only one in it, and he thought he had quite enough to do without taking an extra class. So I stayed home, and I just studied all year by myself. And I got through just by the skin of my teeth. But as long as I got through, that's the main thing. But it just goes to show that now Mr. Hindle would never have turned down a willing pupil. But the next man, he wouldn't consider it at all.
Well, that's fine. And we used to visit Mr. Hindle when he had his little farm out near Weimar. And when our children were small, we used to take them out there, and they used to have a whale of a time running around this ranch and falling off trees and a few other things. But he and Mrs. Hindle were real homey people.
I think his little old house stands up there yet, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What we call Brandon.
Well, now, when you first came here, we'll follow on with that. How many rooms were there in the school when you first started school here? Can you tell me? 2?
2.
Well, that's the same as in Nelson. I attended the central school in Nelson when there were only 2 rooms. So we, of course, as you know, the early days around here, I understand the population of Slocan City was around 5,000 at part of its history.
Well, just when the Japanese were here was the only time.
I see.
The population here at any time prior to 1943, when the Japanese came in here, never exceeded 1,000 people.
Oh, is that so? I see.
And 9/10 of them were prospectors.
Yes, I see. Yes.
I mean,
a floating population.
Floating population.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, that's fine. Well, now, following on with you, Mrs. Graham, what can you remember of your girlhood days and school days? Was there anything different than at the present time?
Oh, yes. I think there were a great many things different.
What could there be?
Well, for one thing, we didn't have the privileges that the children have now. We were the wonderful system they have to work with. And we weren't allowed to be away from our home very much. We were supposed to go to school and come right home again.
Yes.
And we have 2 parts, as we called it down here at Slocan, and across the bridge it was Brandon.
I see.
And we lived in the Brandon area.
Oh, yes.
And of course, Ed lived in the lower part of town, and being a boy, he knew far more of what was going on than I did.
Yes, I see.
I enjoyed going to school.
Well, now, when were you married to Mr. Graham?
In 1960.
1960.
Yeah.
1960, not quite.
16.
1916.
Yes.
Yeah. You'll be taking the leaf out of my book. I do those kind of things, you know. But
You think I said 1960?
That's what I thought
Oh,
you said.
no, I said 1916.
Oh, 16, I
Oh,
see.
yes.
Excuse me. Well, that's fine. And now, no, I don't think I got the names of your family. Now, what are the names of your family?
My oldest sister was Annie, and then it was me, and my brother Archie, who's now dead too, and my sister Jessie, who is Mrs. Huffley of Nelson, D.C.
Oh, yes, I see. Well, we have Jessie then in Nelson.
Just the four of us.
Oh, yes. Well, now that's your maiden name, or at least a maiden family. What about your own family, the Grahams? Now, who have we got in the Graham family?
Well, I have, we lost our oldest daughter.
Oh, yes.
And I have do you want their first name?
Yes, I'd like to have their first names.
Our next girl is, name is Eames. She's Mrs. Hood of Rockland, D.C.
Oh, yes, that's fine.
And then there's our son Ted over here, and our daughter June, who lives in Spokane.
Oh, yes, I see.
That's their family.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure whether I got that from Mr. Graham or not. Maybe I did, but it wouldn't do. It doesn't do any harm to confirm these things, you know. Well, now, is there anything else that has happened in the community life of Slocan City that you think it should be mentioned? We have mentioned that you were on the city council, have done all this work for all these years. Now, I don't think we've touched the school board, have we? Now, what experience now have you had with the school board?
I've been on the school board for a matter of 12 years. I've been chairman for 6 years, and I have a certificate from the School Trustees Association commending me highly, and I enjoy the school work very, very, very much.
Oh, that's fine.
It's late hours as far as that end of it goes, but it only occurs once a month, and we try to keep our meetings as pleasant as we possibly can, and we have a little lunch and so on every night. We have a meeting.
And you, at the present time, you draw your membership of your school board from other centers. Would you tell me?
From New Denver,
yes,
Silverton, Winlaw, and South Slocan.
Oh, yes.
Those are the trustees.
Together with Slocan City.
Yeah, together with Slocan City. And I've been on and on here for, as I said, 12 years. And I don't know, they don't seem to be able to get anybody else.
Well,
I was greatly honored to name the school after me.
Oh, yes. Well, which school is that?
W.E. Graham High.
Oh, where is that?
That's here.
Right here. Oh, yes. Well, that is fine. Well, I'm very sure that you have pulled your weight, Ed, in your town, and I think a lot of credit is due to you, and that really is one of the objects of this program, is to find out what some of our citizens are doing for the benefit of others, you might say, for the benefit of their city, and doing this work because they should. This should be known and recognized to the general public. And I'm very pleased to have had this opportunity of recording this interview with you. And I want to thank you very much for allowing me to come into your home and give me this interview. I was hoping to have your son I suppose he's still busy on some urgent business, and but otherwise I'd like to have had him too, but I suppose really what is more important at the present time is to get the views and experiences of our older citizens first, and while you are notwithstanding the long experience that you've had, you're belong to the second generation. Your father and your family was the first generation, of course, and you came with your family. So did I. And but nevertheless, that's going back. When you go back 50 or 60 years, well then, I think that's sufficient to qualify you as a real old-timer. And I certainly want to thank you and welcome you to the group that have given their interviews and experiences of the early days. Thanks very, very much.
I'd like to thank you very much. We've enjoyed it. We love talking about old times.
Well, that's just well, it's a pleasure too for me to come around to these homes, and I find it the same way that the people with whom we have these interviews, it's a sort of a novelty to them, and they like to hear it played back to them. They enjoy the idea, and it's something different in that they'll remember for quite a little while. And we certainly appreciate your kindness in allowing us this time. Thanks very much. Well, now possibly the busiest man that we found in Slocan City has finally arrived on the scene. That's our postmaster, Ted Graham, the son of Mr. Ed Graham. So, Ted, where were you born now? It was as if I didn't know.
Nelson.
In Nelson? Oh, well, then you took me by surprise. You must have gone down there, or taken you down there on account of hospital. Or was it while your father's residence in Nelson?
No.
That you were born?
No.
On account of hospital
That's right.
facilities. I see. And what year was that?
1924.
1924. And so, of course, you've spent your school years in Slocan City. Who have been your teachers during that time? Name a few of them?
Miss Watson, first teacher I had. Then Deke Hanna.
Deke Hanna?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He's over in Trail now, isn't he?
No, he's gone down
Yes, he's
Fraser Valley now somewhere.
Yes, that's right. He was in Trail.
And Miss Lang.
Oh, yes.
And
We had her in Nelson.
H. Fairholm, I believe it was.
Oh, that's so.
I think that's all the ones I can remember.
I see. And, how far did you go in school?
Grade 11.
Grade 11. And then, did you, what occupation did you have after that?
Went in the Army
Oh, yeah.
during the war for 3 years. And I was in the store with my dad for about 5 years.
Oh, yeah. I think. I don't think that we brought out your store experience, did we?
No.
Oh, well, you better tell us about the store experience, because we missed that in the first broadcast. When was this store started, and what kind of a store was it?
Well, the general store was owned by T. McNish.
Oh yes, Tom McNish,
Yeah.
the former mayor of, who was a mayor of Slocan City for quite a while, wasn't
That's right.
he? Mm-hmm.
And my dad worked for him for I don't know how many years,
Mm-hmm.
until about 1936 when he took the store over himself.
Oh yes.
And I helped in the store with him when I came out of the army until 1954, I believe. He
Mhm.
closed the store up.
Mm-hmm.
Dad built a new post office. Up to that time, after that time, I've been working out, bookkeeping, odd jobs of all kinds.
I see. Uh-huh. So, and then you took over the postmastership when?
May of 59.
59. Oh yes. Well, that's fine. What is have you had any particular interest in sports? You might speak up louder so that we can get you.
Hockey is my
Hockey is your favorite sport?
Mm-hmm. Played a lot of baseball also,
I see. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
and do a fair amount of fishing.
Oh yeah. Well, that's fine. Now, Mrs. Graham, what was your name before you were rescued from the from the single class?
I was a Russell girl.
You're a Russell girl,
That's right.
and where were your folks? You're not G.B. Russell of Nelson.
No, we came from Alberta
Oh yes.
when I was about 13 years old.
Oh yes. And where did you live when you came to BC?
We came straight to Slocan City.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. I see.
Don't ask me why, I don't know.
Oh, and now, what family have you?
Well, what do you mean?
I mean your own family. You've got a boy, have you? An older boy?
I've got two older boys.
Two older boys.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. And what are their names?
The oldest one is Edwin,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one is Jimmy.
Jimmy, I see. Well, now you have three girls.
And three girls.
Three girls, and they're present here now. And what are their names?
The girls are Judy, Patsy, and Maureen.
Well, that's fine. Now, Judy, tell me your proper name. That is really a nickname, isn't it? Judy, what is your full name? Judith Lynn. Speak out so we can hear you. And what class are you in school?
Grade 8.
Grade 8. And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Quilter.
Miss Quilter. Oh yes. Is she any relation to Roger Quilter, the music the composer? I'm afraid not, because he lived about 100 years ago. And now, Patsy, what is your full name?
Patricia Gale.
There's nothing wrong with you girls up here, and you've got a voice, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, let's hear you as if you were in a hockey game. Speak out a little louder and give me your name again, please.
Patricia Gale.
Patricia Gale. Now you got me going. And what grade are you in school?
Grade 7.
Grade 7. A little louder. And who is your teacher?
Well, our really homeroom teacher is Miss Quilter, but we get all the other teachers too.
Oh yes, you're in the high school, and you share all the teachers. And what is your favorite sport? Going to picture show?
I like swimming.
Oh, you like swimming? About as good as anything. Was it a good show tonight?
Yeah.
Pretty good, eh? Well, now, Maureen, you're the Irishman, aren't you? Are you Irish? What is your full name, Maureen?
Maureen Beverly Graham.
Good for you. And how old are you?
8.
8. And who is your homeroom teacher?
Mr. Anisha.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh. You like school?
Yes.
What's your favorite subject?
Art.
Art, eh? Oh, good for you. And what do you like doing mostly? So you're making dresses for yourself, or you're going swimming, or play baseball, or what?
We play baseball.
Play baseball mostly, eh? Oh, that's fine. Now, have you started on the piano or anything yet?
No.
Who's the musician in the family? Which one is the musician?
Judy.
Judy is taking it. I see. Well, don't you forget to push her off the piano stool once in a while and learn the piano yourself, because you'll never regret it, because you can get a lot of fun out of that. And the time that you'll be spending on that, you'll not miss in later years. You'll be glad of it. Well, that's fine to have you girls. Now, I think Grandpa, he was interfering here a little while ago, trying to say something, and now since we started the tape, he hasn't had anything to say. What's been on your mind here?
I wanted Ted to tell about breaking his arm in the ball game in Nelson.
Oh, I see. Is that so?
We went in there to a tournament, and it was a rainy day, and he was our pitcher, and he broke his arm pitching a ball.
It is.
So I could maybe tell you more about it than I can.
That was in Nelson's Golden Jubilee.
Oh, that's so.
They picked an all-star team from Slocan City.
I saw that game. Of course, you had quite a few Jap boys on the team, didn't you?
That's right.
And well, I had the orchestra for the big show at night, you know. Because I wasn't the conductor, but I was the conductor of the orchestra, but not for the Jubilee.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was around there practically all the time. Of course, you wouldn't recognize me then, because I was growing a beard then, as much as I could get along with, because unfortunately a lot of the hairs were gray, and I didn't like that. Well, that was, and how did they get along in the game after that? I don't know. I don't remember the incident, of course.
We were playing Kimberley at that time.
Oh, yes, there was
and they won out. I think there were final winners in the tournament also.
Oh, yes.
I remember correctly.
But somebody had to take your place.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that was unfortunate. Yes. Well, I remember that time, and I was quite interested in the number of Japanese boys you had on the team.
Oh, yes, there was quite a few Japanese.
Yeah.
That time.
They were fun. Well, now, is there anything that you people can remember that would be interesting on tape? Did you take any interest in any of the boat races or anything like that? Oh, yes. I understand, Ted. Now you're one of the younger generation, and it's come about that you the last change has been made just a few years ago. But I understand that Slocan City your dad has told me since that Slocan City was incorporated as a city in 1901 and was the smallest city on the American continent. And I believe through financial arrangements, or it was to your financial advantage to change to a village. Is that a fact?
Yes, that's...
And now that you are incorporated, Can you give me the proper name of the settlement now?
Corporation of the Village.
Say that again?
Corporation of the Village of Slocan.
Yeah. The Village of Slocan. Well, now, have they dropped the Slocan City off that? I understood that it was the Corporation of the Village of Slocan City, which is official.
I thought it was Slocan myself.
How do you say, Dad?
Corporation of the Village of Slocan is correct.
That's right. Eh? Well, now that gets that straightened out, because we were given other information. But that just shows, of course, they're minor points, but it just shows how differences of opinion can get around, and one person will quote one thing and another person will quote another, and feel that they're quite correct in doing so, and still there's a contradiction. Have you any other remark in regard to, personally, I like the idea of Slocan City. Of course, I'm just stubborn, I guess. It really belongs to the old times, and that seems to be what we used to know it as, and what it always will be, likely, in our memory. Have you any remarks to make in regard to the change or the condition as you find it at the present time?
Well, I think on the whole it's better for the community to be reverted to a village from the city status.
Just what advantage is it? Could you?
Well, through welfare costs, for one thing. As a city, they had to pay a certain percentage of welfare costs. Now it is, I think, wholly self-funded.
Outside of the realm of and not asking you about this, because you're right in on the ground floor.
That's right, in regard to the welfare costs, and also another big item is in regard to our snow plowing costs. Why we have a certain leeway with the government being a village.
Yeah.
And they grade our roads, and we get it done very, very cheaply. So there's really advantages to being a village.
That's right.
The only thing I don't like about it is that prior to last year, why the commissioners, they did not receive any remuneration of any kind. But now they do.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't believe in that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've been schooled in a pretty, in a school of hard and conscientious service. Well, thanks very much, people. I think that secured the whole family, except for the two boys, and we would have liked to have had them, but we'd like to get them some other time.
Well, the oldest boy, he's in the Air Force. He'd have a hard time catching up to here.
I see, we would, yeah, I see. Well, that's fine. Where's he stationed?
Cold Lake, Alberta.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's fine. Oh, we had a couple of flying officers in the Air Force in the last war. and another boy in the radar department. Well, thanks very much, people, and this has been a great night, and we'll say au revoir.